This system isn't about doing more work, it's about working with less effort. When your cognitive burden is zero, your creative potential becomes infinite. Have you ever sat at your desk at 9 a.m., full of noble intentions and caffeinated optimism, only to find that it is suddenly 1 p.m. and the only thing you've actually accomplished is color-coding your Spotify playlists and researching whether or not squirrels in the park can be left-handed? You haven't been lazy. In fact, you feel exhausted. Your neck is stiff, your eyes are dry, and you feel like you've just run a marathon through a swamp of honey. This is the great paradox of the modern worker, especially for the deep-thinking introverts and the scanners among us. We aren't suffering from a lack of time, we are suffering from brain lag. In our last conversation, we talked about the scanner's dilemma, the agony of having too many interests and feeling paralyzed by choice. We talked about how to build the muscle of tenacity. But today, we need to talk about the weight of those interests. Because for many of you, the problem isn't that you aren't working hard enough, it's that your brain is carrying so much mental luggage that it doesn't have the horsepower left to actually move. Welcome to the Zero Burden Productivity System. As your resident mind decoder, I'm here to tell you that in the world of neuropsychology, burden is not the volume of work on your desk. If you have 20 emails to write, that isn't a burden, that's just a list. The real burden is the mental friction caused by remembering those emails, organizing the order in which you'll write them, and that low-level background radiation of worry that you might forget one. To fix this, we have to look at the RAM of your brain. In the 1980s, psychologist John Sweller developed a framework called cognitive load theory, or CLT. Think of your brain's working memory, the place where you actually do the thinking, as a small, high-tech workbench. It is brilliant, but it is tiny. You can only fit a few tools on it at a time. If you try to put a chainsaw, a hammer, a drill, a pile of timber, and your lunch all at once on that tiny bench, nothing gets built. The workbench just collapses under the weight. According to Sweller, there are 3 types of load occupying your brain's workbench right now. First, there is intrinsic load. This is simply the natural difficulty of the task. Learning a new language is heavy. Filing a basic report is light. You can't remove this load, it's the price of doing the work, but you can break it down into smaller, lighter pieces. Second, there is germane load. This is the good load. This is the energy your brain uses to build mental maps, learn new patterns, and actually produce high-quality work. This is the state of flow we all crave. But then, there is the enemy, the thief of genius. Sweller calls it extrinsic load. Extrinsic load is the mental noise. It's the messy files on your desktop that you haven't renamed. It's the 3 Slack notifications you ignored but are still thinking about. It's the unclear plan for what you're doing next. For the multitasker and the deep-thinking introvert, extrinsic load is a silent killer. Because we process information so deeply, we often accidentally invite more noise into the system. Every piece of unorganized information is a background process running on your brain's hardware, eating up your RAM. When your working memory is filled with extrinsic load, you hit brain lag. You sit at your desk for 3 hours, the cursor blinks, and you accomplish nothing. Why? Because your brain is so busy asking, "What's next? Where did I save that file? And when is the deadline?" that it has no resources left for creative thinking. By the time you actually try to do the real work, you've hit decision fatigue. Your prefrontal cortex, the expensive, high-energy CEO of your brain, is already exhausted from making tiny, useless choices about where to put your pens. It is checked out for the day, leaving you burned out before you've even started. The zero-burden system isn't about working harder. It's about a radical, neurological flush of the brain's cache. It's about clearing the saw and the timber off the workbench so you can finally see the wood. So, how do we actually reach this mythical state of zero burden? How do we stop the CEO in our heads from going on strike before lunch? We need a system that mimics a high-performance computer, one that flushes the cache and moves the heavy lifting to the most efficient hardware available. As your mind decoder, I'm going to walk you through the 3 psychological pillars that will dismantle your brain lag and free up your mental buffer. Pillar 1. Externalization, the second brain protocol. The first step in reaching a state of zero burden is a process I call externalization, or as I like to tell my more stressed out clients, stop treating your brain like a filing cabinet when it was designed to be a high-speed processor. The science here is simple but profound. Your brain is a magnificent machine for generating ideas, but it is a frankly terrible machine for holding them. When you try to remember a task, let's say, buy milk or send a quarterly report to the London office, your brain uses a specific amount of energy to keep that thought active. This is what psychologists call an open loop. If you have 10 of these loops running, your prefrontal cortex is effectively screaming at itself all day, trying not to forget. This background noise is your extrinsic load. It is the background apps on your phone that you forgot to close, slowly killing the battery. By moving these tasks into a trusted external system, be it a minimalist digital board like Notion, a simple journal, or a specialized app, your brain receives a literal neurological signal. It's safe to forget this. When you move a task from your head to a system you actually trust, your extrinsic load drops to near zero. You aren't just making a list, you are performing a biological offload. Your brain experiences psychological closure. The pings stop, the battery drain ends. You are clearing the timber off the workbench so you can finally use the saw. Pillar 2. Standardization, neural automation. However, offloading the data is only half the battle. We also need to fix how you use your remaining energy, which brings us to the second pillar, standardization. Think of your prefrontal cortex as a manual gearbox in an old car. It's powerful, it's precise, but it requires a lot of driver input and burns a massive amount of fuel. Every time you have to decide how to start a task, what software to open, or where you saved your notes, you are grinding the gears of your PFC. But your brain has another region, located deep in its center, called the basal ganglia. This is the autopilot of the mind. It's where your habits live. When you brush your teeth or drive a familiar route home, your basal ganglia takes over. It is energy efficient and operates almost for free. The zero-burden system uses standardization to move the boring parts of your work from the expensive PFC to the tireless basal ganglia. By building low-thought routines, standardized templates for your work, a fixed starting ritual for your deep work sessions, or a rigid filing system, those tasks become habits. You aren't deciding anymore. You are just doing. You save your mental battery for the germane load, the hard, creative, complex work that actually requires your genius. You want your work life to feel like a high-end automatic car, smooth, effortless, and optimized for speed. Pillar 3. Environmental minimalism, the sensory flush. Finally, we have to talk about your physical space, environmental minimalism. I know some of you are looking at your organized chaos right now and thinking, but I know exactly where everything is in that pile of papers. The neuroscience disagrees with you. Every object in your field of vision is what psychologists call a visual stimulus. Even if you aren't consciously looking at that half-empty coffee mug, that stack of unopened mail, or that random souvenir from a holiday in 2012, your brain is subconsciously processing them. It's asking, is that important? Do I need to do something with that? Is that a deadline I missed? Every one of these subconscious checks is a tiny ping on your RAM. It is extrinsic load that you didn't even ask for. Environmental minimalism isn't about being a trendy minimalist. It's about reducing the number of unplanned meetings your brain has to have with your desk. A clean, clear environment allows your brain to enter what we call deep work. It allows your selective attention to narrow until all your neurological resources are concentrated on a single point. It turns your mind from a scattered light bulb into a focused laser. When the visual noise is gone, the burden is lifted. The zero-burden promise. So, let's put this all together. The zero-burden system is the art of working with less effort. It is the understanding that your brain is a finite resource with a limited buffer. By externalizing your thoughts into a second brain, standardizing your routines into neural habits, and minimalizing your environment to reduce stimuli, you aren't just being productive, you are being kind to your biology. You are flushing the cache so that you can finally use your brain for what it was meant to do, to create, to connect, and to solve the wicked problems of a complex world. When you remove the friction, the work doesn't just get faster, it gets easier. I've created a new tool to help you implement this, something I call the Cognitive Load Audit. It's a simple framework to help you identify where your cognitive lag is coming from and exactly how to flush your specific cache. You can download it for free at the link in the description. Remember, this system isn't about doing more work, it's about working with less effort. When your cognitive burden is zero, your creative potential becomes infinite. Stop carrying the weight. Start using the system. I'm the Mind Decoder, and I'll see you in the next one.